This is the BiggerPockets podcast, show 146.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.
What's going on, everybody? This is Josh Dorkin, host of the BiggerPockets podcast, here with my co-host, Mr. Brandon Turner. What is going on?
What's up, Josh? Look at me at my standing desk. Isn't this fancy?
I know. Look at the whole new setup. Well, hi, I'm Brandon Turner. I've got a window with a beautiful view behind me.
I'm actually standing
in the middle of nowhere.
I'm in my kitchen right now, like dining room, on my kitchen table. And that's where I'm recording this because my office is still not set up. But I'm not on the floor like last week, or was it 2 weeks ago?
I was just giving you grief because
I got the nice window.
Out your window is ridiculous.
Thank you.
Redonkulous.
It's a cool view, but yeah, cool. How you been doing? What's new?
I'm great, man. Doing really well. We're plugging away. Got a whole lot of cool stuff. Super excited over at some point in the coming weeks, maybe a month, give or take. We are going to be doing a bit of a rebrand with BiggerPockets, and we've been working on some, a new look, feel, logo, design. It's very, very exciting. I'm jazzed. So definitely looking forward to that.
We have something else. We have something else new as well, which leads us to today's quick tip.
All right, guys. Today's quick tip is we just at the time of this conversation that we're having a couple days ago, launched our BiggerPockets Android app.
Woo-hoo!
Yes. I know. I hear the applause. Yes. You guys have been.
Do people use Android?
Very patient. I don't even know what word I just said. Patient.
Good job.
You guys have been very patient with us. And it's probably like 50-50 Apple Android.
But I'm just an Apple fanboy. Come on.
Yeah, me too. But we finally released the Android app for BiggerPockets. So get on the Google Play Store, download it. We've got push notifications. We're going to continue to make this thing better and better. And check it out. So that's today's quick tip.
Quick tip. Cool.
Really quick. Please jump on iTunes if you guys have a second. Leave us a rating review. Those things help us out. They're great to read. Brandon and I get a lot out of them. They keep us pumped. They keep us motivated. And frankly, they help other people find out about us. So please take a few minutes, jump on iTunes, leave us a rating review. If you haven't done that, Stitcher, SoundCloud, other places, you can do that as well. Thank you. All right, guys. And so for today's show, we've got Enrique Jevons. Enrique is a real estate investor who has scaled a pretty impressive business and investing business of his own properties, and has also scaled a pretty impressive management business. We talk all about it. We definitely get into word of mouth. How do you build a business through word of mouth? And it's fascinating. Yeah. It's really cool stuff. Enrique is an amazing guy. We've got lots of great tips. And let's get to this thing. Enrique, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to have you. Enrique, your name is Enrique, was it Jevons? We just talked about this a minute ago. That is a very Spanish first name and a very English last name. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So actually, I'm actually 100% bilimlingual. So
Are you really?
Maybe 95% Spanish.
I want to do the entire show in Spanish.
So, vamos a hablar en español. Pues está bien conmigo.
I don't know what the hell he said, but it sounded like a good idea at first. But,
Well, it's actually been really helpful. So that was in my previous career in the hotel industry. It was really helpful because of all the housekeepers that we employed in California. But certainly now I have a pretty sizable chunk, maybe about 25% of the tenants that I have are Spanish speaking. Of them, maybe 15% are Spanish only speaking. And so it's actually helped out with my growth tremendously to be able to speak Spanish.
I want to go there. I want to get into that. That sounds fascinating. I think it's super smart to focus on niches, and particularly a niche that you can dominate on. And being bilingual, that's a great way to do it. Let's get there. Before we do, let's take it back. You talked about the hotel business. Talk about your journey from, professional to becoming a real estate investor and manager.
Yeah, this started out, I got a degree, got my Bachelor of Science, went into the hotel industry just because that's was my original true passion, and so I was in that for a good 21 years.
Nice.
And I worked myself all the way up to becoming general manager of a Marriott hotel. It was a Marriott Residence Inn in Palo Alto, California. And so I thought that, that was my goal always was,
Was that where homeless engineers would spend their days because they couldn't afford to live anywhere else?
That's where they spend their days, and I tell you, they got plenty of money, so they're not homeless. But
it's a tough market.
It's a crazy world.
So I thought, oh, this is great. I'm going to be general manager. I'll be at the top, but then once I become general manager, I realized that I still had to answer to somebody. There was still the owner of the hotel, and then there's also, because Marriott's are predominantly franchised, and this one was, there's also Marriott Corporation, that I'm answering to. But it was really then with the Rich Dad Poor Dad reading the book.
Nice.
And there I am every week. I signed all the checks. We do check runs weekly. And so once a week, I'm signing all these checks. And one of the checks, of course, is to the owner. And so here I am every week being reminded of, oh, my goodness, I don't want to be me anymore. I want to be
Those
that
are big
guy.
checks, huh?
I want to be the owner. Wait a second. I'm not at the top yet. I'm nowhere near the top. So I'd only meet with the owner in the beginning. It was like once every 3 months. And then pretty soon it was once every 6 months.
Wow.
And what I realized is, and he had no knowledge really of the hotel industry. That wasn't his background. And so he's a developer. And he's pretty much a retired developer because he did so well. And so, here he's making a ton of money for some very good investments. So obviously he took risk, and now comes his reward. But I decided, I'm just making a paycheck, and I would much rather, go out on my own and be able to try and become that owner.
Nice. Nice. So how'd that transition happen? You were definitely in there for 21 years is forever. So stepping away couldn't have been easy. Did you just rip the cord, or did you start doing stuff on the side? What was the path?
Yeah, I ripped the cord, but it took a couple of years to get the guts up to actually pull the cord. What it was every year we have some family in Yakima, Washington. So that's just, Brandon thinks he's in a small town, but at least he's got, some humanity around him. I shouldn't say that.
You just pissed off half your audience.
Exactly. There's places he could go. All right.
You are a little more out there in the middle of a...
This is just very rural agricultural town. So... but every year we would fly up from the San Francisco Bay Area and visit, and every year we'd talk about with my wife's relatives about the cost of real estate, and I would just every time I'm floored at how inexpensive housing is in a small town compared to a large urban area. And so I knew that I wasn't going to be able to buy rentals in the San Francisco Bay Area. I was just completely priced out of the market there. So we decided to cash out. We had one rental, actually, and we had our own single-family home. We'd had it for 15 years, and so we had a tremendous amount of equity built up in those 15 years. Yeah. So we cashed out, moved to Yakima, and then started buying property. And in the beginning, it felt like monopoly money. And I was like, oh my gosh, everything's on sale. Well, and I timed it right. Sorry. We moved in 2008. So
okay.
We sold right at the peak. We sold in February of 2008. So I truly hit the peak of the market in the Bay Area. And then everything tanked, and I started buying up properties then in the summer of 2008. And so it really felt like everything was on sale.
Yeah. When you say that, just real quick, like what are we talking about price ranges here? What does a single family house sell for? Stuff like that.
So, the first property that I purchased in Yakima was a 13-unit apartment complex. And I paid $380,000 for it.
What?
Okay.
So I put 25% down, and got just
29,000 a unit.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, why did you start with a 13 unit? I mean, people ask that question a lot. Like, should I start with or multifamily or single family? And
well, so I had been researching it for a couple of years. So even though, like, when I quit my job, I gave 2 hours notice. So after 21 years, 2 hours notice, and I was out the door. I jumped on an airplane and took off because everything was closing. I was closing all these deals. I had deals lined up, and so I was closing on them and everything, and so needed to fly out immediately to take care of it all. But in deciding to go multifamily versus single family, it's essentially because I had the money and because I knew that and this particular property had just excellent cash flows. I mean, just the history of it, and it was just from an old couple who had the property themselves for a good 20, 30 years, and they were at the end of their life. As a matter of fact, the husband even passed away a few months later. So it was just something that they took it all the way to where they could no longer manage it. Yeah. But so it was a screaming deal, but multifamily just cash flows better, and there's just so many economies of scale. So my recommendation would be to anybody is get as many units as you possibly can under one roof. It spreads out the risk. If one unit goes vacant, then that's only 1/13 of the revenue is lost, at that point, versus 100% of your revenue if somebody in a single family home moves out. And then the insurance, just the more units you got under one roof, versus a single family home, insurance wise, it's more cost effective. So the economies of scale just work out much better.
Right on. All right, so this 13 unit, how'd you find that? I mean, you said it's a screaming deal. Sounds I don't know what the rents are, but sounds pretty good. How did you go about finding it from this couple?
Yeah, for me it was a screaming deal. I mean, the cap rate was about 14%, and I've been able to increase it from there. So that's what I'm referring to. It worked out as a great deal. I actually found this one by using an agent. So this was an MLS listed property and with an agent. But being that it in a real agricultural smaller town, essentially there's not a lot of investors with that kind of money, and they had been approached many times about seller financed, and they didn't want to seller finance. They wanted to use the cash for medical expenses and just cash out. They weren't going to be sticking around for another 20, 30 years to get paid off over time. So for them, it worked out better to get cashed out. For me, I had the cash available. So that right there kind of knocked out a lot of the competition.
Sure.
Right on. Awesome.
Can you kind of walk me through that? Like, here you are as a full-time job, a career, like where you had all that, and all of a sudden you're going to quit and then jump into that. Like, that's a scary prospect for most people. Like, what was your mind going through during that time?
Wait, and before, really quick, I want to add one thing. I mean, presumably as a manager of a Marriott hotel, you were making pretty good income. Yeah. I'm assuming off the $30,000 a door, building here, you're not making close to what you were making. So, had a right. So let's talk about that as well.
Sure. Yeah. A family of five. We've got 3 kids, and I had spent my entire career, earning a paycheck, and so I knew it was not something I could do in the Bay Area because I needed to make mortgage payments there. However, because then moving to a smaller area, we were able to buy a house, and then we bought it. I was able to actually get an interest-only loan on it, so then my payments were only $800 a month when I completely maxed out. What it was a HELOC, a home equity line of credit in the first position. So which is pretty unusual, but what it allowed me to do is, because I didn't want to use all the money I had right away, I bought that house. So now I've got that with a line of credit. So sometimes my interest-only mortgage payments were only $300 a month. Sometimes they'd go up to $800 a month when I used that full line. Then I purchased, I had the 13 unit, and then very soon after I bought another 8 unit, and then another 8 unit very quickly, all within about a year's time. It's because I had enough money also saved up, that because we'd planning for this, we'd saved up money. Because I had enough money saved up, I realized that it could actually go a whole year without needing a salary. So I knew that we could live for a year without any income whatsoever, and that allowed us enough time to make these purchases, get some cash flow going. But then, it was still very scary because I knew that it was a one-way ticket. I mean, there was no going back. And so I knew that I was forced to have to make it work. So thank goodness it did. But I guess my fallback plan would have been move to Seattle or someplace. Well, Seattle's still expensive. Move to someplace affordable and, get another job in a hotel.
I'm sure you would have had no problem finding one. Yeah. So how many units do you currently own now?
Yeah, so it's about 100, just over 100 units at the moment that I personally own, and then I manage another 500 for other owners with the property management company that I have.
That's significant. 100. So 100 that you own just on your own. I mean, maybe you can kind of, are those single family? Are they all multifamily? Do you have any single family? Like, kind of, what's been your strategy the past 6-7 years?
Most of them are multifamily, and that's what I like the best. Okay. But I do have some single-family homes, and actually the ones I've purchased more recently have been the single families. But those have been just now that I've kind of established myself, and so now it's just much easier. People oftentimes come to me just because that I know that I can buy. So I have a couple of different lines of credit, and so I use these lines of credit to go and purchase. But it's when I get these calls, typically it's they want to close same day. I mean, I'll get a call from an attorney. He's got an estate that he just needs to settle. The individual is deceased. He doesn't want to have it on the market for 6 months, and which is in the area that in the area that I'm at, it takes that long oftentimes to sell a home. So.
Hey, and Enrique, quick question. So, are these all located in Yakima? All the properties?
Yeah, all the properties that I've got that I own are in Yakima. Now,
okay, go ahead.
I'm starting to branch out from there. So I just moved, a few months ago now to a place called Issaquah, Washington. So another smaller area, but it's a suburb of Seattle. So essentially now I'm in the Seattle area.
Okay, and you had talked about the attorneys will call you up and ask for say, hey, can you close them one day? They know you can do that. So how did you become that guy, right? I mean, obviously you became that guy. You had the cash, in the first properties and things like that. But how did you become known as that guy? It's one thing to go out and find a real estate agent broker who can source deals for you. How do you kind of expand from there? And all of a sudden, people in Yakima know, like, hey, this guy is the business. This guy's going to close on deals. How does that transition happen?
So it in the beginning, it was talking to a lot of different real estate agents. So I was letting real estate agents know that I'm a buyer. And so because a lot of agents have pocket listings is what they refer to. Pocket listings are listings that agents know about, but they are not on the MLS. And sometimes they're owners, and I've got owners myself too that we manage for that tell me that, you know what, I really would like to sell this property. I don't want to have to go through the trouble of getting it on the MLS or anything else like that because I don't want to spook my tenant. But if you come across a buyer, I'll sell it. Okay, so now I know. So I was talking to agents in the beginning, and then from there it was a lot of networking. So it was, for example, joining the landlord association. Pretty much every town has a landlord association, which is just an immensely wonderful resource. So it was going to those meetings and talking to people and letting people know, hey, if you ever get tired of your rental, I'll be happy to buy it. And a lot of times people don't, they're not thinking necessarily ahead of time they really want to sell. But sometimes when they just come across somebody who they get to know a little bit over time and and they then find out that this guy really has a lot. It adds credibility having, the more properties you can get, obviously, the more credibility you can, have to persuade, owners that, hey, look, I can follow through. I can buy from you.
Yeah. I really like what you said, about the pocket listing thing and talking to agents, telling them what you want. I never really, honestly, I never really realized in the past why a person would have a pocket listing, right? I'm like, well, why not just list your properties? But now when I think about it, I have said those exact words to my agent multiple times is, hey, I don't want to go through the trouble of listing this, but if you happen to know anybody, I would definitely be willing to sell. And so I've got, a number of properties that my agent knows that I would sell. Now it was like one of those moments that clicks.
The pocket listing.
It totally clicks now in my head, like why that is. So anyway, that was cool. I guess
you are blonde. I mean, by the way,
I was not an agent.
Listening,
you guys are agents. I don't.
Apologies.
Yeah. All right. So
Brandon, isn't it an insult to you?
Yeah. I've got one guy of an owner of a triplex who I keep trying to tell him. It's been over a year now that he's really actually wants to sell this property, but the problem is that he has it's seller financed, and the relationship he has with the seller is such that he doesn't want to let on that he actually is. Essentially, he needs to get rid of this property, and so that's another reason too for pocket listings. So they're out there if you talk to agents.
Yeah. Hey, Enrique, on the management side, though, you also have an advantage, right? So you manage properties. You've got 500 properties under management. Surely you're hearing from tired landlords as well. I mean, I'm sure you do a good job of managing, but at the end of the day, even if you do a great job, I mean, there's headaches that come up no matter what. So I'm assuming that's a good source of pocket listings.
Yeah. No, definitely. There's a lot of the owners that I've got are actually they don't actually want to own the property. They especially, this is with single family homes. So there's a lot of people that have single family homes that have moved, and they would have ideally liked to have sold the property, but because the market was bad at that particular time, they decided that they're just going to rent it out and wait it out until the market improves and then sell it. So I have a lot of properties that are like that as well, that I haven't really talked so much about it, but I know because that's how I acquired the property from them, that under management, that they would actually like to, prefer to sell whenever the market gets better.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love that concept of using your network and finding deals through your network. We've heard that theme a lot lately here on the podcast. Like a lot of our guests have been saying that their leads are coming from their network and people that they know, because they just let people know. So, maybe I'll just challenge every one of the listeners today. Really, really easy way and free that everybody can go and let everyone that you want to buy property. Go right on your Facebook today. Go put a Facebook status. Say, hey, if anybody knows anybody looking to sell a house, I'm looking to buy something in this town. And you got hundreds of Facebook friends. Everyone does. And so there's a very good chance somebody will know somebody who might be wanting to sell, and it might give you a good deal. It takes 2 seconds.
That's a great challenge.
Thank you.
Nicely done, Brandon.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Let me up this challenge,
man. Wow.
I'm going to up this challenge. So if you guys do that, I want you guys to go in the comment section on the show notes page, which is at biggerpockets.com/show146. I want you to go just in the comment section, leave a comment, and then in that comment somewhere, ask a question or leave a comment for Enrique. But also just say, and I did the Facebook challenge. And we're going to pick one person, and I'll give them a copy of the new book on rental property investing that should be out anytime now. In a couple of weeks still, I think it's coming out, but I'll give you an early copy as soon as it's published for free. So that's my challenge. Yeah. So anybody who does the Facebook challenge, just let me know in the comment section. You like that, Enrique?
I do. Good.
Cool.
Go right on.
All right. Anyway,
I pay for your last book, so I figured.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Thank you for paying for the last.
Yes, thank you for paying for the book on investing in real estate with no and low money down, which people can get at biggerpockets.com/no money.
We got you. You bought it. What'd you think? It's a pretty good book.
Oh, yeah. No, it's an awesome book, and so it truly is, because it's so just factual, nuts and bolts. There's a lot of books out there that are more kind of trying to get you motivated. They're more motivational books, but don't really tell you kind of step by step, or what are the different things involved and different ideas. Whereas, oh my goodness, yeah, it's a great book.
Well, thanks.
Yeah,
I'm going to put that on the sales page. It's a great book, Enrique Jevons.
Manager of hundreds of.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, Enrique, let's get back to you and away from Brandon and his super
I like
overly
talking about me.
inflated ego.
It's a level ego. It's a level.
Oh, it's far from level, my friend. Far from level. All right, so some of these deals you had talked about the MLS. Is that where you find the bulk of your deals? I mean, you're finding pocket listings. Are there other sources are you doing any kind of marketing to find deals?
That's how I think that's how I did find things initially. Now, things are coming more often to myself. I'm spending definitely much less time, and time is definitely an issue for me. So I'm spending less time actually searching, because it does take a long time to just be searching. I'm in a position now where I don't have to buy, so I'm fine if I go a few months, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months without buying something, I'm okay. I start getting a little antsy, but
A little shaky, right?
but I'm okay. So I'm in that fortunate position. Things do snowball, so that's definitely the nice thing, is that over time, the business definitely snowballs. I mean, right now too, as far as acquiring new properties to manage, in the beginning, it was really, a lot of pounding the pavement, a lot of going out there and trying to seek out owners to try and see if they'll allow me to manage their property for them. Whereas now, it's all coming my way. It's all referral business coming my way.
That's great.
So we talked about the word of mouth through the networking, and you've established the same thing through your management business. Are there any tips that you have for the listeners to expedite the transition from a active marketing to a more passive word of mouth growth business model?
Yeah, it's really having to put yourself out there then. So it's some of the key locations for sure is going to be BiggerPockets, because the network is so huge on BiggerPockets now that truly there are people, members of BiggerPockets, I got to say, everywhere throughout the United States, and certainly now in many other countries as well. So that's a huge resource. Meetup.com is a great resource too, where there's it's a way to find real estate groups in your area. If there are none, then it's an easy way to start one up yourself. Then of course, LinkedIn is just a way to kind of add credibility to what you do. So you have to use all these online resources to put yourself out there and make sure it's up to date, make sure people can find you, but also the different RIA groups, the real estate investment groups. There's always real estate investment groups in every town. And even, going to the courthouse steps. Okay, so typically every Friday morning in most every town on the county courthouse steps, they have the, real estate owned, bank owned auctioning off of properties. So the process takes a while. So what do you do when you're standing around? You just start chit-chatting with everybody, and those are all buyers, and those are all people in the buyers and sellers both. And so that's a way to start to meet all the local investors in your area too.
Yeah,
awesome.
I love that.
Great tips.
Yeah, I love it. Cool. I want to go over to the financing real quick, and on how are you actually? I mean, are these all loans? Are they seller finance? What are they? How are you getting them?
So personally for me, I like lower interest rate. So in the end, I always end up with a conventional loan.
Okay.
And so in the end, I've always got 20-25% equity in. But as far as how I go about purchasing them, it's either typically now it's using a line of credit that I've got established, and I have a couple of different lines of credit. One line is on my personal residence. Another is just a line of credit I was able to establish for the business. Another line of credit is backed by properties that I own outright, and these are I've got a bunch of little single-family homes that one of them, for example, doesn't have a foundation, and so a bank isn't going to lend on it. A couple of others, the price, they're in the $30,000 to $50,000 range. Actually, several of them that I've had are in that price range, where it's just not worth it to a bank. Banks oftentimes don't want to lend out typically less than $40,000, and so. And the closing costs involved in closing on even a $40,000, $50,000 loan, kind of add up. I mean, for them, it's the same amount of paperwork for a bank to close a $40,000, $50,000 loan than to close a $1, $2, $3 million loan. So obviously, they're going to prefer the higher loans. So on those ones, I was able to get a line of equity without having to go through the appraisal process, because what we agreed on with the bank was just to go ahead and use the county assessor's price. So typically a county assessor's price is a little bit on the low side, so they're comfortable with using that number. I was fine with it because I've got enough. I'm not trying to milk out every nickel and dime. So what I've said is, okay, every time I take on a property that I own, that I purchase outright, these little bitty ones, then they just keep upping my line of credit by that much. So if I buy a $30,000 one, they will give me 80% of that $30,000. They just add it onto my line of credit. No closing costs, no appraisals. It's just a piece of paper. And so they're not charging me. Yeah, they're not charging me at one point or anything else like that.
That's cool. And that is kind of, would I be correct in assuming that's the commercial loan department at that bank?
Well,
how does that work?
Yeah, there are different banks that do differently. So a lot of the larger, I use now just all smaller banks. Mm-hmm. So I have loans at several different smaller banks, because what I found is that when you go to the bigger banks, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase, and all of them, they are much more stringent, and they are definitely looking for large loans. Yeah. But the smaller banks, I've got typically do consider 1 to 4 units as being a residential loan, and 5 plus a commercial loan. 5 plus actually has to be a commercial loan regardless. Sure. But there are some banks that will also treat the 1 to 4 units as a commercial loan. So I have there's a particular credit union in my area that treats them that way. The interest rate is a little bit higher on commercial loans. Typically, it runs 1 point higher, commercial versus a residential loan, has been my experience. But at least and I use them always in the beginning, because they would qualify the loan based on the cash flow of the property, not based upon my debt-to-income ratio. My debt-to-income ratio was holding me back. I had good credit, but because I didn't have a paycheck in the beginning, that's what was holding me back. But now I've got enough years of tax returns that I can show my income, and now my debt to income ratio is much better and allows me to get some residential loans. But this line of credit with the houses, it's at 4.5%. It floats. It's a 2-point margin, so now it's at 4.5%, but it could float upwards if interest rates did go up. And it's only $50 a year is the maintenance fee on it. Wow! So it's a great loan.
Yeah, that's great. Now, let me ask you: did you go to the bank and say, "Hey, this is the kind of loan I'm looking for," or did you go to them and say, "I want to work with you. What can we work out?"
I went and said, I want to work with you. What can we work out?
Cool.
It was, and I found that just talking to the branch manager, and I started out in the beginning, they would put me in touch with a banker, but I found that, and I start my relationships always with them first, but I then very quickly got to know the branch manager, and so getting to know the branch manager really, in my opinion, helps out tremendously. Yeah. And it was, a matter of I came in fully prepared. So I had tax returns, I had my, financial statement, and both my personal financial statement, my business financial statement. They could see everything, my profit and loss statements. So, bring that in and show them this is who I am. And I started working out, tell me, what what's available, what can you do? And then I would start to run ideas past them. And so it was definitely kind of both ways.
That's cool. And that just kind of illustrates how flexible, especially like commercial lending or small banks, those like it isn't like a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loan. It's not like this is what we'll do for you, A, B, C, D, E, and you have to have it, E, F, G, whatever, right? So like they move around. I got a friend who's kind of one of my mentors that we're gonna get here on the show pretty soon, I think. But he has this awesome loan where they customize it just for him and his business models. He goes and buys properties with a huge line of credit, and then as soon as he buys them, they transfer it to a fixed rate mortgage through that bank as well. And he just buys. And he's basically doing that BRRRR strategy, right? The buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And it's all within this one loan package through a local lender. It's awesome, right? Like, I need him to like introduce me to the guy who did that for him and have him do it for me, because it's just
it's amazing how much banks can actually do. I mean, they don't have to do just one loan on one property. They can do one loan on multiple properties, and they can of course do the line of equities. They also, one of the things I had no idea, but I just assumed in the beginning that they would have to send out an appraiser. I had no idea that they would just base it upon the county assessor's site. It's like,
I've not heard of that, but it makes they can do.
They were willing to do it.
Want.
So different banks, and what I noticed too is, so banks have sometimes they're cash heavy and they need to make loans, and other times then they're you'll notice this, that sometimes they're advertising, really pushing, trying to open up new accounts, and so they're giving out, we'll give you $50 if you open a new account, that sort of thing. So then the bank actually needs cash. All right, so that's probably the time not to necessarily start approaching them for loans.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's great.
When they start advertising auto loans and here's our rates and stuff, okay, now they're flush with cash. And so they go back and forth, this balancing act for them, and so that's the times you want to hit them up. And so definitely it's advantageous to work with multiple banks for that reason too.
Smart guy, Enrique.
Yeah, I never heard that before.
Guy. Yeah, that's awesome.
I like that.
So I've got a quick question. Take us back a little bit, and then want to continue to kind of move forward here. You quit your job. I'm sure you were doing pretty well when you quit your job, and you said, hey, I'm going to have a year where I can survive.
Yeah.
When you bought that first property and then the subsequent properties that followed, what did you do with the revenue generated from the property? Did you put everything back into the portfolio, or did you start to take money out as a salary? How'd you do that?
I've never actually taken a salary, so some people do. They pay themselves a specific salary. I don't. I try and live as meager as I possibly can, and I then try and reinvest everything that I possibly can. So in the beginning, I went and I was scrubbing the toilets, when the tenants moved out, and I was the one who was doing all the work. I was the one who was sheetrocking and painting and doing all that, because in the very beginning, I had that time available. Now, over time, then, as soon as I bought then the next property, okay, now I have a little bit less time. So then I figured out, well, what's the thing that I really don't, dislike, don't want to do? Okay, the toilets. All right, so
it always falls back to the toilets.
So I hire, a housekeeper. So I have the housekeeper help me out, and it's just on an on-call hourly basis. And then pretty soon it's the maintenance, becomes a little cumbersome. And so now I'm hiring out the maintenance. And then after that, I needed somebody just to help me out with answering the phone calls, admin work type of works. And so then I hired my first admin. And then so little by little, now I have 5 full-time staff members in my office, and I have 2 virtual assistants that I'm using.
Nice.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. That's great.
So, okay, I'm assuming in your office you are an agent as well, a broker, correct?
Yeah.
So how many of them are salespeople versus in infrastructure?
So I kind of have under my LLC is kind of an umbrella. I have 2. And I'm pushing the cat out of my way. Sorry. I have 2
cat people. Great, wonderful. Can we end the show now?
I think that's why you invited me on.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Because
Awesome.
I like cat people.
So I have under my LLC, I have essentially two businesses going. I have my property management business, and then I also have my real estate business. I have 5 real estate agents that work under my license. They're doing traditional, representing the buyers and sellers. One of them specifically is pretty much just multifamily only. All right, so then I'm able to. It's definitely works out well, because even though I don't consider myself a traditional agent. I have bought and sold many times, but it's not the career path I wanted. I was actually very reluctant to become an agent. I was kind of really in the beginning fighting with Department of Licensing, saying, come on, I don't want to have to get my license. I want to manage for others, but they required in the state of Washington, and pretty much most states require that you actually have a real estate license to manage for others, which I think is kind of crazy too. Because
I do too.
Yeah, I mean, you can manage thousands of your own properties.
Yep.
And
but I have to have a salesperson license in order to
and
manage my neighbors.
And the salesperson license doesn't actually educate you on how to get a tenant's toilets,
at all.
investing in real estate, or anything else.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you guys. But to manage one, your next door neighbor's property, you want to manage that property, you have to have a license for it. So, so I had to get a license. Now, having gotten the license, then I had agents approach me, and they said, "Oh, how much would you take?" Well, I figured, what, I'm just going to take a very small cut. And so as a result, what I've gotten is established agents, because I'm not in the position to be out there training new agents, but I've gotten established agents who just want to have a smaller, percentage taken from them. And so now I've got 5 that are working under me. So that's actually worked out really well. It's kind of really more of a side business for me as a result of having the license.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool idea. I never really thought about that. It's just, I've been where you are, or I am where you were, in that I struggle. I battle with, should I get my license or not? And I go back and forth, and I took the test. I mean, I took the class once and never took the test, and that was probably a mistake. But and now I don't want to go the 90 hours and go redo it. And I'm like, I don't know. But it's kind of a cool idea just to get my license. At least then I can become a broker later on. I think you have to do 2 years or something like that.
Yeah, so state of Washington is 3 years, which is pretty typical. I'm pretty sure that most states are the same thing, where you have to be licensed under somebody else for 3 years. The whole idea is that it's kind of like an internship, where you're actually learning from an experienced broker on what does it take, and so it actually is a very good thing. So as a managing broker, it just means also that you're responsible for every single transaction. So every single transaction that these 5 agents are doing, believe me, I spend a lot of time on the paperwork reviewing it to make sure that it's absolutely 100% correct, and if not, I kick it back to make sure that, because I am ultimately responsible. So as an agent, yes, Brandon, definitely, you got to get your license, get it now, because it does take 3 years to then go out on your own, right? And so the thing is that if, let's say, this next month you decide, hey, I really do want to follow through and make my wife go, start up a property management company, then you're going to be kicking yourself.
Make my wife start a property management company. I don't know about you guys. I can't make my wife do anything.
There's a backstory here.
Isn't that what this is all about? I thought the only reason I came on is,
I know I know backstory.
So you brought it up.
You can't make any. Listen, honey, if you're listening, I would never try to make you do anything. I love you, and I don't know about Brandon.
I can try. It doesn't mean I'll succeed. I can. No, okay. So this is the backstory, right? So we'll go there next because you brought it up. So me and Enrique actually met at a BiggerPockets get together, a meetup. There's probably 40 or 50 people there, and at one point, everybody went around this big, huge table. We were at the Ram restaurant up in Lakewood. Everyone went around and said what they did, and we got to Enrique, and he's like, I'm not much. I just have 100 properties and manage 500, and I'm like, that guy, I got to go talk to him, right? Because when you go to those meetups, you go and talk to people you want to become like. I'm a big believer in that. Find the person at the next level and go talk to them, right? And so Enrique is at the next level. And so I'm like, I got to go. So I went and cornered him and we got to talk. And so in that conversation.
You do like the corners.
I do like the corners. So we started talking, and I just asked him, my wife and I have been thinking of starting a property management business. should we do it? And that's what kicked this whole thing off. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you that again, Enrique.
Yeah.
Should me and my wife start a property management?
Yeah, so definitely, Brandon, you definitely need to start, or well, have your wife start, have Heather start a management company, because there's so many economies of scale, and there's so many things that if you're managing a few properties of your own to begin with, that it just makes sense to take it to the next level, and that is managing for other owners. So if you're in the very beginning, I was using Excel spreadsheets, and then I was using QuickBooks, and then I used Google Docs Online to be able to create online applications, and I fed that all in to Google Docs. I eventually then got over to a property management software company, and so that it allows me to manage all the maintenance aspect of things, as well as the accounting portion and the rental applications and all. So if you're going to go to the trouble of, I would actually need all that stuff anyway, just to manage 100 units anyway. So since I already am paying for all those things, I already have that set up, and now with 100 units too, I needed an office space so that people can come, to actually have a location. Whereas in the very beginning, I was just working out of my house, like so many other people start out, and so if you have that all already, it just makes sense. Why not manage for other people? So
yeah, that makes sense.
It's worked out well.
That makes sense. Well, cool. I think we probably will at some point open a property management company. I heard about
someday.
I will do it. I'm actually hoping to get my license probably this winter. I know I've been saying that here on the podcast for like a year, but when things slow down a little bit this winter, I'm going to get my license. At least because, for the reason you said,
slow down post
3 years.
launch.
Yeah, post book launch.
Yeah.
Because like you said, 3 years from now, I might want it. Now, there isn't a rule, and I don't know the whole rule. Maybe you know it, and our state has it, and some other states do. That says bark, dog should bark. No, that says if you've been involved in real estate for a number of years, I think it's like 3 years, but not been an agent, you can take like the test and become a property manager still. Have you heard that? There's some weird exception.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a waiver. You can contact the Department of Licensing and request a waiver for the number of years. And so it is possible to do. I didn't do that. I just was a good boy and followed the steps. But if you want to be a rebel and you just want to do things your way, then yes, I would suggest contacting the Department of Licensing and ask them.
It's a great tip.
How much of my experience can count towards that 3 years experience.
Yeah. All right, well, we got to get out of here pretty soon. But before we do, I wanted to kind of wrap up with one final question before the fire round, and that is, do you recommend every investor should get their real estate license?
Yes, I think so. The thing of it is that there are also, when you get your license, the first 2 years, you got to hang it under somebody. However, that being said, you really got to shop around for a managing broker, because the fees vary wildly. If you go work for a large franchise, Remax, Windermere, one of these larger ones like that, of course, they're going to have some pretty high fees involved. But usually an individual doesn't charge nearly so much. And if you just need a place to hang it, oftentimes, you can even sometimes just get them to hang it for free and just say, and as a matter of fact, one of the agents that I've got, he might do one a year. And so I don't charge him anything. I just do a cut, a percentage, when he actually sell something. And that's just because he just wants to have it on the side, because he really wants to be able to look on the MLS directly himself, see all the private notes. There is a private notes section in the MLS that only agents can see. There's two boxes, public remarks and private remarks. And so the private remarks can get you a lot of information that you can't get just by looking online. So there are definite advantages to becoming an agent, and the cost isn't really that much, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. You convinced me. I want to know that private stuff. So cool. Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we move on?
It's time for the fire round.
All right, this is the world famous fire round. These questions come direct out of the BiggerPockets forum, so let's get to it. Number one, user asked, I'm looking to buy a property for under $45,000 as a cash flowing property. From your experience as a first property, should I buy an apartment like a condo or a single family house?
Okay. So, as my opinion is, get as many units as you possibly can under one roof. That's just been my personal experience, has worked out to cash flow better.
Okay, but they've only got 45 grand. So if they can't find a duplex, what do they choose?
Well,
Condo
Detroit,
or
they
house?
could get like a 30-plex.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, if you've got 45 grand, well, then maybe you network and meet with somebody, and then you go in. You know, maybe somebody else has another 45 grand, and you put your two 45s together, and there you go. You've got a lot more purchasing power.
Cool.
And 45 grand is not a terrible down payment on a property in a rural
area.
Yeah. All right. What kind of education is needed to build a successful property management business?
Yeah, so that's the first thing you need to do is just know what you're doing. I mean, and so you can go about it a couple of ways. I mean, yeah, you can start buying your own properties, and then you just kind of, hard knocks, figure it out. You can also then just go work for another management company, and so that's where I would definitely steer somebody if they don't have a lot of money to start with. Is go work for another property management company, because there you will get paid to, may not be very much, but you'll get paid to learn.
Right
Cool. Perfect.
Cool. Awesome.
All right, next one. Should I hire a property management company to manage my triplex if I'm living in it? So I'm living in one unit, renting there too. Should I hire somebody to take care of it?
No. So, yeah, my experience has been live-in managers, and so I've had a few over the years. They start out great.
No, I don't think she's asking about hiring a living manager.
Yeah,
she
they
lives
actually
in,
live in it.
She lives in one of the units, and
Okay.
instead of actually managing the two other units in her own building, she wants to hire somebody, or is wondering if she should.
No, I don't think it's worth. I mean, if you're living next door, if you're in a duplex, a triplex, and you're living there, it's going to drive you crazy, I think, to have to go through somebody else. I would just say no. Just be the landlord yourself, and now manage it yourself. If you're not a confrontational person, which is what people are afraid to ask for the rent, or they're afraid to say no, you can't pay late, you got to pay on time, then you need to, well, if you're going to continue in the business, you need to get a little
Grow a pair.
time. But then you can get somebody to help you with that specific thing, but don't hire a management company if you live there.
Fair enough.
There you
Fair
go.
enough. All right, last question of the fire round. What questions should I ask when interviewing a property management company? So give me your top 3 questions to ask a property manager during an interview.
Oh, well, actually, just go on BiggerPockets, because it's been talked about so many times. You can
So
see.
many times. Oh, don't cop out, though, Enrique. What are your favorites?
Yeah, what should you ask management company? All right, so you got to ask them all their fees, because there are a lot of different fees that different companies charge. We just charge a percentage of rents collected, but a lot of other people will charge a lease-up fee. In addition to that, they will charge a annual inspection fee. They will charge a fee for when the tenant moves out. I mean, there's there are so many fees that you can charge. That has to be really clear. That's probably the very first thing. Secondly is get references. I'm always shocked at how many people do not. It's actually pretty infrequent that I get asked for references, and I always think that you should. Just like if you're going to hire an employee, you want to check their job references. You should, and if you're hiring, getting a tenant, you should check their previous landlord references. You should do the same with a management company. Thirdly, you should take a look actually at how they're advertising their properties. And so what I mean by that is, take a look at the quality of their website, the quality of the photographs that they're using to advertise versus somebody else. So now we're large enough, we actually use, for example, a professional photographer. And that was easy enough. I went on Craigslist and I posted an ad for a photographer, and I got tons of people. It just said part-time freelance photographer needed, and I got tons of replies. I went through all their pictures, and it was really easy to hire a professional photographer. But not that many management companies use one. And
It's a great idea.
That's a really good
How they
idea.
advertise.
What does that cost, by the way? I mean, on average, what does it cost to photograph a unit?
Okay, hopefully my poor guy is not listening, right? So I'm actually pay him only $25 per apartment and $50 for a house.
Okay.
If there's travel time involved, he's got to go a long ways, then I'll pay him for mileage as well.
Okay.
But
Cool.
yeah, $25 to me, that's worth it. I get awesome pictures as a result.
And he's awesome, and his name is no.
Yeah, well, he's got another job where he's actually making money. So-
All right on, man.
Cool.
Right on. Cool. Well,
All right,
thank you for those, and I think
It is time.
for something else.
It
What
is time for
for?
the famous four, which we ask every single guest. So why don't we jump to it? Number 1, what is your favorite real estate related book?
Well, it was okay. Actually, now my favorite real estate book is yours, Brandon's, because your guys is the BiggerPockets real estate. So, and I don't even have notes in front of me to be able to read off the incredibly long name that you picked for
Book
it.
on investing in real estate with no and low money down.
So, okay.
Thank you.
I could barely get it right, and yeah.
I don't think
Don't
you've
worry
ever
about it.
gotten it right, Josh.
Oh, come on.
Let's try it
man.
right
Give
now.
me
Let's put Josh on the spot. Josh, what's the title of my last book?
the book on investing in real estate with no money whatsoever.
Good try. Good try. All right.
So that's become my new favorite. In the beginning, it was Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is not specifically. Actually, it's not even real estate. The first one that I read, but that's what really made me go for it. I would have loved to have jumped in and bought hotels, but that's a whole lot of money needed to do that. So
Let me ask you: are you going to
Red
eventually
hotels
do
will
that?
Come soon, yeah.
Are you going to buy hotels now that you've been in the industry?
I would love to get back to that if ever it got to the point, but it would have to be a nice hotel. That would be awesome, but I don't know.
You could come
Someday.
to Denver. There's a street called Colfax, and there's like a strip of like 50 motels. I don't know that you'd want to go there without a biohazard suit, but I'm sure you could probably pick one up for about $20,000.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Stay away from that. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. All right, next question. What is your favorite business book?
Yeah, and so business book is the Rich Dad, and so you know what? So then I started reading, pretty much most of his books. Now, I'm also one to say, you know what? Go to the library. I went and got them all from the library. They're all available, and then I just started reading, like crazy, all sorts of books from the library on, on real estate, on business, and listening to audio tapes then, and now for me, podcasts the last several years have been the big thing. There's all sorts of different books that you can get on podcast as well. So the Rich Dad Poor Dad series was what really kind of shifted my way of thinking, which it did for so many people.
Right on. Brandon, do you know what a tape is?
I've heard of such things. I used to, sit and record radio songs on a tape
Nice.
and listen to them later.
Just checking.
That was
just
my
checking.
jam.
There you go. There you go. All right, Enrique, back to you. Hobbies.
And
do for fun?
hobbies. Yeah, well, now it really is all my time is definitely spent on real estate and researching real estate and managing the business. But I do enjoy mountain biking. I was big into mountain biking at one point. For 1 year when I was very young, worked for a mountain bike manufacturer, and I felt like I was on vacation the whole year. So, but there was no money in it. So I finally had to get back to work. Then, so mountain biking and skiing are just things that I really enjoy doing, and there's skiing right close by to where I live too. So it's great.
Oh, right on.
Cool.
Cool.
All right, my final question. What do you believe sets apart successful real estate investors from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
So a lot of these meetup groups and RIA groups that I attend and go to, and I go to them, always religiously. You always see the person who shows up just once, and they always say, "Oh yeah, and I want to get into real estate," and then you never see them again anywhere ever. And so it seems to me that it's perseverance. You got to stick with it. It's not something that happens overnight. So if you want to become, a property manager, you want to get a property management company going, it takes a long time. And so it's not that you can immediately start work and immediately earn a paycheck. over time, you're going to be able to, really create a lot of wealth for yourself. But it just doesn't happen overnight. You got to persevere.
Yeah,
Wow.
I love it.
That's great. All right. Where can people find out more about you? Where can we find you?
So my website is jevonsproperties.com. So it's Jevons properties.com. And so I have a tremendous amount of information there. I do have my bio and stuff up on BiggerPockets, and so you can definitely reach me there as well, and LinkedIn and Facebook. So I try to put myself out there.
Perfect.
Cool. Hey, I have a quick question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot here. So we've got a book launch coming out. We've got the book on rental property investing and the book on managing rental properties. Names might shift a little bit from when they come out. But when we release that, we're releasing some bonus content with it. And I would love to sit down with you and pick your brain on the landlording side of things. We didn't even hardly touch on that today. But how you actually manage properties. Are you willing to sit down with me for a little while and we'll put it in the bonus content?
Well, if he's not,
Yeah.
60,000 plus people are going to know about it.
Yep.
So he
So
better.
you
say
better.
yes. You just trapped him.
I did, right?
Up, man.
I did. You like that? So now,
You know what? I'm like every other landlord. Landlords love talking about
we
properties.
do, right?
I mean, I every time I go to a landlord, association meeting, oh my goodness, you can't get people to shut up about their properties. No, I am always happy to talk about my properties. Yeah.
Well, we'll schedule time in the next week or so, and we'll sit down and we'll talk, and then we'll put it in the bonus content. So
Perfect.
there you go.
Enrique, well, listen, thanks so much for being on the show. We definitely appreciate it. Lots of great stuff. And we will certainly look forward to seeing you around BiggerPockets.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun. We'll see you around.
Great. Thanks. Bye.
All right, guys, thanks so much for listening to the show. Enrique, thank you for being here. That was just fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, really good guy.
Yeah, like I said in the show, like he's definitely like the next level where I want to get to, very much so. So it was fun to pick his brain, both in person a few weeks ago when I met him, and then today, and just to bring back that what I talked about earlier. I mean, go to those local meetups, meet with people that you want to become like. Like, this is so cool. Like, and people are so willing to share. I mean, not just Enrique here, but there's 100,000 Enriques or 1 million Enriques or more in America that you can just go meet with and talk with and learn from. So yeah, get out there, go meet somebody like Enrique and take your business to a new level.
Do it. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for listening. This is show 146 of the BiggerPockets podcast. You can check out the show notes at biggerpockets.com/show 146. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. I'm Josh Dorkin, signing off.
You're listening to Bigger Pockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.